News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilworth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and it's the big one, folks. Happy Moon Day.
Absolutely.
Nice. Okay, that's pretty broad. We're not talking about those guys back in the day that would drive by with their car. Never mind, Max.
It's not the shine.
Okay. All right. What is Moon Day and who instituted it? I mean, this should be a global event, right?
This is a global event. It's
Okay.
because it's the global event of the century. It's the anniversary of the moon landing.
Okay.
So it's Moon
Well,
Day.
there we go. Okay. Which, let's face it, we got there first, but it was a celebration of the triumphs of humanity. So,
And I will say kind of something which was kind of cool in the spirit of world peace. We did get to there first, but one thing that was kind of notable that Buzz Aldrin did is one of the things he left behind were 2 medallions in honor of the fallen Russian cosmonauts Yuri Gagarin, and I can't remember the other one.
Alan probably knows, but we'll look it up. But very good. That's a nice move. I like that. So, in the middle of the Cold War, they were honoring, their fellow comrades, space travelers and stuff. So
You just
all
like
right.
saying the word comrade.
I just like the word comrade. But anyway.
Well, let's face it, the society of people who have been outside of the Earth is a fairly small one.
Yeah, it's a pretty notable group. You would respect them no matter where they came from.
Well,
obviously.
and 60 years later, we even get to count William Shatner as one of the people that have been to space.
Good
finally.
point. Yeah. No, so hats off. All right. Well, Moon Day. That sounds like okay. That sounds like a holiday we could all get behind.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
We need the moon. It's pretty handy. Keeps the tides in place.
Allows the Earth to exist. It's kind of important, Joe.
So if you want to weigh in on that and let us know how you're celebrating Moon Day tastefully, I hope. Not like we would have done in the 1970s, I suppose. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. There's a little glitch with the camera, so we'll see about those, but they're not on right now, so I'm not going to
thank
recommend
goodness.
watching that. Alan didn't brush his hair today,
Nope.
so but there's lots of action on the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. We've made 4 posts this morning, Alan, and they're wide-ranging. They go back, starting with our great moments in building history. I figured this would be something you'd enjoy, Alan. These are your people. Today, we're going to discuss the St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland, which is widely renowned as the birthplace of golf. I think that's a fair assessment. This thing goes back to the late 1400s. I mean, that's it. I don't know anybody. We weren't golfing out here, as far as I know, back then.
No.
And still in use today. And but I thought this must be a marvel of landscaping. It's right up against the water. I mean, it is surrounded by water, as far as I could tell. I was kind of curious about what the wind factors were and all that. But anyway,
there's a lot that goes into this.
So we're going to talk about that. There's actually some funny little anecdotes about this as well. So we have, going back in time, our must-have item of the week is an item that I've used since I was 10 years old, and it's still kicking. It's still functional. It's still doing its job, And so we have that. Let's see, we have more that I don't want to spoil too much, but anyway, my wife, okay, so boy, I'm getting a lot of mileage out of these home projects. I don't know what's gotten into her, but suddenly she's all about just getting as much work done around the house as possible, and it's mostly stuff she's doing, which I love, because for years it's always been me. But Alan, she wants to install a decorative walking path. A composite decorative walking path. You've seen, you know about those, right? I mean,
oh boy, do I ever!
They look very tedious. I think you said this. We're talking about rock Tetris, putting one of these babies in, but they're pretty cool. I've seen some that are very tacky. I've seen some that are better than others. But we want to do it right. We don't want weeds and things growing up, but we want to do it once and be done with it. So. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of grunt labor for me, though, as well. So we have a lot.
Not so bad.
We have a lot more on the table, but before we get to anything else, we got to discuss this. So there was a story. Very good, Max. This is no longer science fiction, folks. In fact, we posted a picture of this up on our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Okay, Alan, how many years have we talked about the robots are coming? The robots are coming. Well, we know that they've been here, but now we're getting a little bit close to some of these sci-fi movies. I'm mostly thinking of like RoboCop. We now have security robots. I know they've been deployed at like the Peabody Hotel. They have one that's roaming around in their parking garage and everything. And now you can have robots for your home. I was hoping our listeners might chime in on this, but Alan, home security robots have a lot of implications. I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about it, although I'm wondering, I guess one of my questions is how much customization can you do to these? Can you add your own features to deal with intruders and things like that? What are the legal ramifications?
I just see the Terminator.
How lethal can these things be, and
No,
how
I
effective, and how much would you pay for one?
I jumped immediately to Mark Roberson, and I could just see a robot security guard with fart spray and massive amounts of glitter.
Well, you and I aren't off that
Boom!
much.
So,
Here's
yeah.
my thought was, I've always felt this way. I would love to see more let's just say safe booby traps to deter criminals. How about this, Alan? What if you had a robot that shot out a really horrible stink spray and covered the intruder with that? I mean, it would make him hard to go anywhere else after that till they got rid of it. But
Is that kind of like the thing where they like explode paint when they're trying to steal money?
yeah, they put that in a bag. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. If you want this money, it's going to be worthless because
It's
it's going to
gonna be
spray this
blue here in
ink
a
all
minute.
over it.
Yep.
But I don't know. What do you think? There's a lot to discuss here, and it's here. It's not a question anymore. In fact,
All
it's a question of how much do you want to spend and what type do you want. So,
All right, well, let's back up slightly,
okay.
and let's start at Roomba.
Oh, the little vacuum guy.
All right,
Yeah.
so here we have a little robot that is actually designed to memorize where it bumps into stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. So it's mapping your house.
So
I thought
it
it just
learns-
randomly moved around.
So it learns where things are. And of course, you move stuff, so it bumps into them, but it kind of goes, okay, you put the chair over here now. So the little Roomba, and we can even go a little further back and look at a Furby. And a Furby
those
spoke,
are creepy, man. Yeah.
well, they spoke Furby language unless you talked to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it began to learn English language and prompted the FBI and the CIA to ban them from the workplace.
Oh, yeah. What was the story behind that? That was pretty
Because
funny.
they had recorders in them. They were recording you so that they could learn your language.
They were a spy device.
They
People could
were
use
a
them.
spy device.
They could be weaponized Furbies.
I just
Now-
like to hear like the Ruskies, like they have like a Russian Furby, like saying "Dobre utro, comrade."
Yeah. So let's take it a little further. And at the home show 2 years ago,
Yeah.
you and I were sitting there, and they had Robo-Lawn.
Oh, a robot lawnmower. That
And
was
you,
pretty cool,
and
too.
you put the little perimeter things up to let it know, like a silent fence for your dog, don't go chasing something down the street.
Right.
But here, just run around the inside of this, and it basically mapped where the trees were and stuff, and would cut your lawn.
It had a little charging dock. It
And it
pulls
would
into the
go-
charger
right.
when it needs. Just like, what's the robot droid on Andor that we like?
B2.
B2. You pull in. He's still functional while they're charging up.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they need to, they come on out and they
Okay.
map. Yeah.
Now let's go to last year. We're here in Memphis. For those of you listening to us around the world, we are in Memphis, Tennessee, the land of Elvis and barbecue. And even in little old Memphis, Tennessee, we now have robot servers.
Okay, now I've seen that. I wonder how you
And
feel
that
about that.
various restaurants around town have got robots to basically do the simple stuff like bring water to your table. Or, so they're cooking around the restaurant. Since COVID, we've spread them out a little bit, so we're not crammed in there like we were at lunchroom in the high school.
Right.
So there's a little more room in the restaurants, a little more space, and some restaurants are putting in robo-servers. So you can press a little button on your table, and here comes Sparky, doot-de-doot-de-doot, right out straight to the table. So now
Okay.
we're going to go, and this is something I think we need to bring up with Brandon Olmstead, our buddy at Geek Tank.
Yeah.
He's in the security business. And, well, I don't see why we couldn't have, because A security robot is there to observe and report.
Well, that's what the report I saw, because I watched a news report about the robot that they have at the Peabody parking garage, and they said it's helped decrease incidents. Basically, it roams the parking lot. It can sense what is that thermal? Like
it's got an
people
infrared.
are around.
Yeah, it's got an infrared. Right.
And also it can go through and check every license plate, and if there's something in there that's suspicious, if it's a stolen vehicle or if it's the license plate of a known felon or something, it might park itself right outside. So it's absorbing a lot of information. I don't know what sort of a fight it puts up if it wants to stop you, I suppose. But,
Although the thing is, there's a difference between information and wisdom, or in other words, information applied. And so a robot can absorb all this information, but they don't have the same level of prudence and guidance that a human does to when to make a decision and when not to make a decision.
I guess that's always the question. It's like, but there's a lot to process. Yeah, but they're just getting started, Max. Wait till they do decide to wait till iRobot gets here. And it's not that far away. We've got more to talk about with that and several other great topics. So stay tuned here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Okay, you know what? Shut up.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I will not. I'm going to keep going. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, especially if you want to wish everybody a happy moon day. Send us some of your favorite pictures of the moon. I don't know.
The moon.
Yeah.
The moon.
The moon, not
not a moon. The moon.
Not moonshine either.
Right. But it's a noteworthy anniversary of going to the moon, and it's one of the greatest achievements in the history of mankind. But if you're just tuning in, boy, we are in the middle of a hot and heavy subject here. Home security robots are no longer a thing of science fiction. They're here. They're real. There's ramifications. There's good, pros and cons, and we're discussing some of those right now. I mean, some businesses have already been doing them. Like Allan told us, there's restaurants that are using robot servers. Part of me doesn't like that because my daughter helped provide for herself during college as a waitress, making money and stuff. But
what this does is it frees the humans up for less mundane tasks.
They keep telling us that, Allan, and now they're out there making art, which quote unquote, all that kind of garbage. So it's like stealing art from other.
Also, what does that say about us as a species and everything if we relegate a mundane task to a serval class such as like AI and everything? Like we become a Wall-E species.
Yeah, that Wall-E movie is the most
I got news
depressing
for you, dude.
example
We've
of
been a
that.
Wall-E species since we started. So
since
we
got
won't
the
get into
cell
those
phone, I think.
geopolitical ramifications.
But home security.
Let's talk tech.
But see, the thing is, Allan, there's some features you can add to your robots. For one thing, they have smoke bombs. Okay. Well, somebody might say, "What do you need a smoke bomb for?" You off the air, you were making a pretty good example of why you would want a smoke bomb.
If there was something you wish to break up,
like a fight or something.
A little Donnybrook has broke out. You start lobbing smoke grenades into it, it'll stop. Let's put it in for all right. Well, let's look at a variety of uses.
Okay.
There are a lot of parts of the country, including Memphis. Now, we don't have bears here. We got raccoons, possums, squirrels. We got critters.
Mm-hmm.
We got cats. And for some reason, we got cats. Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
Home security could keep said little critters off the house at night.
Sorry, not to. I'm gonna let you get back to your point. You made a great. We have an owl that is scoping out our little our cats and our dog.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, this thing lives in the back, and we've had some close encounters. So if we could keep that owl away with a robot, I'd be all for it.
Just kind of, as a deterrent.
Okay.
There are, I'm thinking of some friends of mine that live in Pennsylvania that live down the street from a guy that actually had a bear living under his porch. And I'm like, all right, if you had something patrolling the grounds at night, you would have a moving object that could detect and deter
Right.
a deer getting in your garden, a bear going through your trash can, raccoons getting on your roof. Just a quick critter influence. Two, you would have 24-hour day to observe and report action around the house or in the house.
Yeah, it could patrol the whole property, man.
But it's now here's what's gonna have to happen. We're gonna have to rethink how we design properties to allocate for our electronic friends.
So instead of a sidewalk, we have a robot.
You'd have like a
walkway or
robot moat. You got a little robot thingy so they can run around the house. Where are we going to go with this?
Right.
It's not going to stop. It's going to keep growing. And if I had a business in a part of town where I had to have concertina wire, having a robot with some smoke bombs and the ability to flash lights and make a lot of noise would be, I think, advantageous to have loose in my parking lot.
I think so. I guess I would love a lawyer to let us know the legal parts, because my feeling is, okay, well, you could outfit this thing with a taser. What are the legal rights you have as a property owner? If somebody's trying to steal your car or break into your home, to tase the guy.
Oh, I promise you.
I feel like that's
there
justified.
will be lawsuits coming.
But
there will be court. There will be a lot of time spent in court as to what your robot can and cannot do.
Yeah.
But security at its base is to observe and report.
Well, and prevent. How about, let's just prevent crime.
The fact that you've got, the fact that you've got little baby RoboCop rolling around the parking lot is an amusement. It might be a comfort to your customers, but if the minute the local not-so-greats figure out, hey, you got RoboCop here, now it becomes something to avoid or get around.
Or what happens when people, because we know this a lot, what if people who aren't meant to have these sorts of things end up souping it up and like modifying it to be like mega killbots?
That's on my notes here, Max. You and I are always thinking alike. How do you keep people from weaponizing robot? They'd have to have something in the software that shuts it down immediately. Well, they did that in iRobot, didn't they?
No.
And that's a realistic movie.
Yeah. The three laws. I love the three laws.
You'd have to have some programming in there that did that. No. What if, that's a good point.
All right, we talk all about fail-safes we want, self-driving cars still hit each other. We're not there yet. Is somebody going to do it? Oh, absolutely. I have no problem believing somebody's going to do it. Then they will face the legal ramifications thereof.
So the future we're laying out is a bunch of criminals that don't even get off their couch. They've got a remote control, and they're using their robot to terrorize, and we're using our robots to fight
catch them. Yes.
Yeah, it's like battle bots, basically. So
yeah, I'm good with battle bots. I think that's kind of cool.
Okay.
So the biggest thing here is this coming? Yes.
It's here.
It has arrived. Yeah. It's going to keep growing. And I think it's going to have a dramatic effect in how we lay out buildings.
Right.
I think Wall-E with the little tracks on the floors and stuff like that, I think that is imminent.
I think so.
Absolutely coming.
Well, the question is, would you buy a home security robot? I think I would. Well, it depends. Would you spend $5,000 on the security of the outside of your home? It depends. If it's effective and you could sleep at night knowing that there's no way anybody's messing with your property, that's worth $5,000.
All right. Well, let's flip the script on this and let's go to some funny videos. One of my favorite videos in the entire world is the crazy guy in Pennsylvania who bought a bunch of Halloween toys.
Oh,
the kind that are motion activated.
Yeah.
And he hid them around his property because he had a bear problem. And the bears were getting into his trash cans and knocking stuff over. So he hid these things, and then he put cameras on them. Right. He put trail cams out because he wanted to see the action.
Yeah.
As here comes Mr. Bear, doo-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo, and he would round the corner, and he would tip the trash can, and the giant skeleton would pop up screaming.
And it's funny what that
does
to a bear.
And the bear takes off the other direction. I'm sitting here thinking like a porch pirate.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
you got your robot parked over there by where your delivery comes in. Well, you are going to get, there's going to be an app on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So the app on your phone says motion. You look at it, and it's the UPS delivery guy. So you tell the robot, stand down. All right. So,
Or no, put the package here inside this compartment.
Yeah,
on the
or you
robot
could just
something.
say, you just tell it, thanks for delivery, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, an hour later, you got motion coming up the walkway, and it's somebody sketchy looking with a car running by the street.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're going to go into full entertainment mode. Because now we're going to have glitter, screaming. We're going to have fake gunshot blast. I'm thinking of all the stuff people are already doing.
I like my stink thing. If you covered somebody in something that
Just-
just reeks,
just-
and that marks them, and they're not going to go anywhere.
Here's your little douse of elk spray.
Right.
Yeah.
Or one thing that I always like is I like the idea of harnessing the power of the sun, i.e., effective lighting and everything. Like I have this thing called like a tactical flashlight that has it shines at 2,300 lumens.
Yep.
No matter what, even if you're intoxicated, even if you have a certain level of immunity to pepper spray or to a taser and everything, because I know that's a possibility. No one is immune to the power of the sun blinding you.
Well, and no one is immune to a jump scare.
Nobody can see if you're blinding them with a flashlight that's like as bright as the sun. That's a feature I would add for sure.
But what it is you combine all of the above, just like they did in again, I go to pick on Mark Roberson, who invented the porch pirate package.
Yeah.
You steal this, you're gonna regret it.
Yeah.
Because he put all the sounds in it from the bad movies in Home Alone. So I mean, these things would come on.
That's a question there. Would Kevin McAllister be in prison for what he did?
Kevin McAllister helped Mark Roberson with some of these packages, so they're doing pretty funny. So I'm just looking at, there's gonna be a lot of questions, but is it coming? It's coming. If it's not already there, you will go online and discover that there are about 15 companies that are more than happy to sell you what do they call an AMS, an autonomous mobile security unit.
There we go.
And I'll be curious, like like us people, like towards like the middle class have like Ring cameras. They're pretty generic. While people in the higher echelon like have like more expensive security systems. I want to see what the lower rung, lower budget security robot looks like versus like higher budget robots.
Well, I can't wait till certain hardware brands start making their own, and they're like at the big box stores.
Yeah, don't get the generic security robot. It only takes a little more to go first class.
There you go.
This, so. All right, well, we're going to move it along, but that's on the table. If you've got thoughts about security robots in your home.
Would you have one?
Exactly. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And now for the finishing touch.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That sounds like the voice modulator on the home security robot that you can order. Get yours today.
What's the finishing touch for a robot?
After it's knocked out your home invader there, man.
That sounds a little nefarious.
Exactly. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. It's a good day to do it. Today, I guess we've been going tech heavy in the early parts of the show. Today is Moon Day. I guess it's international. I would hope it's International Moon Day, Max. I mean, everybody shares the moon equally.
It's just Moon Day, so that means beyond borders.
Exactly. There are no borders for the moon, but it does celebrate the landing on the moon, the first landing on the moon. And also, which obviously required a great deal of technology of the day, but also earlier in the show, we were talking about home security robots that they're here. We're considering, well, first of all, how much would you pay for one? How effective are they? What modifications would you make to your home security robot? I'm a fan of the idea of adding a generous amount of stink spray into a high pressure hose that they could spray on your home invader and make them, vomit and smell bad. I think that would be effective. Max has the bright light feature that he would do to blind him, and Allan wants to use the smoke grenades to disengage and disarm them. But that's on the table. If you've got any thoughts about it, but we're going to move on. Before we get to Allan's weekend review, we want to talk obviously about our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration. I don't know that they could employ robots in their situation. I don't. How do you replace the techs and the experts?
There's going to be human expertise there for a long, long time.
Unless, could they have mini robots that they deploy in your air ducts to inspect them and see how dirty they are or something? I mean, that's fair.
Well, we got little
game.
robot cameras.
Yeah.
Or how about the Remy Halo system? Rather than just being particulates, it's minor. It's like micro robots like the Borg.
Oh, okay, yeah, nanobots. Okay, we don't want that. All right, let's just keep it. Let's just stay grounded in reality, gentlemen. If you have any HVAC needs, you definitely want to call Brown Refrigeration. They, for one thing, they have a great business culture. They've been doing this for we're getting close to their 50-year anniversary. We're not that far away. Larry Brown has been in the HVAC game ever since he learned from his father. It's an important thing. We need HVAC in the Mid-South more than. I mean, it's a big deal. And he's watched the technology evolve. He told me he can remember when an air conditioning unit was 500 pounds and it was in your window, and it cost as much as your mortgage, basically. Today, HVAC is streamlined. It's very energy efficient. He always works with Trane systems because Trane is at the cutting edge of technology. And your HVAC system is not something you really can do much about yourself. You can change the filters. You can be aware of taking care of your HVAC system by not cluttering things around it, by not letting grass grow up into the vents outside. Beyond that, you don't want to mess with your HVAC system. It's a highly specialized unit. You need trained technicians, and that's where Brown Refrigeration comes in. Have them come out once a year and inspect your system. The visit costs next to nothing, and it pays for itself by having an energy-efficient HVAC unit. They also work with the Remy Halo system, which uses the UV power of the sun to create cleaning particulates. This is turbocharged air. This is air that is not only coming out clean, it also cleans every surface it hits. There's nothing like going into a space where the air is clean and pure. Man, that's good for your lungs. You don't want to just eat and drink healthy. You want to breathe healthy, and so that's why you want to have Brown Refrigeration in your home. They've also got great financing if you ever need to finance an HVAC unit. We love the business culture at Brown Refrigeration. They are a rock solid company, and we highly recommend them, and they answer their phones. So get in touch with them at 901-362-1881 or go to brownref.com. All right, Max.
Oh, the humanity.
All right, it's time for Allan's Week in Review. And Allan, at first, when you were texting me, I thought we were going to have a point-counterpoint. I thought we were about to disagree, but now it sounds like we're about to agree wholeheartedly.
Well,
I
probably.
hope.
Yep,
Unless you're going to
probably.
trigger me and change your thing at the last minute.
No.
Okay.
I have some pretty strong feelings about this.
Okay, talk to me.
So this week's theme, for some reason, seemed to be painting and drywall and mud.
Okay. The painting part, sometimes that's therapeutic, just doing something, because you can paint kind of sometimes painting is a relaxing effort.
Well,
but,
all right, well, we're going to start with one of your favorite topics in the whole world, and that is cutting in.
Okay.
And
brushing.
I
for people that don't know what that is. Yeah.
I have watched you do this over the years, and as loath as I am to tell you you're actually really good at something.
Oh, I know.
You are really good at that.
For what it's worth. I mean, yeah.
Well, it's worth baby, when you're painting, the person doing the cutting in is invaluable.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're talking about the brush and getting up in that corner, that joint between the ceiling and the top, or the corner in the wall. And
yeah, if you roll the wall and then you cut in and get the edges
cut in
and
is
stuff.
that last little inch or so that you didn't hit with the roller. And all right, well, one, let's just say get the right brush.
Oh, amen, brother.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to trigger Joe right there.
Amen.
So-
and don't cheap out on a brush. Get a good. It's like $5 extra to get the really good one. So
All right,
don't be a cheapskate.
So the job I got called in, Joe, you would have just immediately just started crying.
Oh no.
Because it was like the cheapest, biggest, fattest, 3-inch wide Mondos you could find. And they were going to like, well, we're just going to cut in here. And I'm like, you ain't cutting in with that.
No. You can slap paint on with that, but yeah.
I said, you're going to sling paint at the wall with that, but you ain't cutting in. And then I asked one of them to show me how they were going to cut in. And that's when you don't even know how to paint. Stop.
If you come work for Allan, he doesn't just take your word for it. He tests you. And it can be a humiliating experience if you don't know what you're doing. So, yeah.
I hate to admit this, but the number of people I have said, I'm sorry, your services will no longer be required.
Right.
In the first 10 minutes of working for me is legion. Because usually everybody tells me they can paint.
Well, you've got state regulations to think
Well,
about. I mean, you've got some pretty
I do,
high stakes, so you got.
But I also have standards.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I hand somebody the little portable paint bucket and a clean brush, and I say, "All right, show me how to feather, cut in, whatever it is." If you take that brush and you ram that baby down in that paint can to get as much paint on it as possible, you're fired.
On both sides.
Oh, yeah, you're fired. You're fired. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, trust me, everybody out there that knows how to paint just got done having a nervous twitch.
Yeah. Well.
Now, that brings me to the other question.
Wait, we've said what we don't like. Let's just at least, if you're cutting in, I will say, Allan, depending on the application, I am a huge fan of the 2-inch or 2.5-inch tapered brush. And also, folks, if you go shopping for a paintbrush, you'll notice that some are thicker than others. I don't know if there's a 1/2 inch versus the 3/8 or something. I prefer the thinner. I like a nice because it gets you in those tight corners.
And you push up into the corner. You don't start in the corner and pull the paint down. Right.
So I'm just saying. So that's what we prefer. And there's brands that we can't name, but they're like we said, you're going to spend $13 or $14 or $15 for a decent
You're
brush.
going to spend $15 for a decent paintbrush.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know what? It's worth it because it'll go so much faster and so much easier. And then everybody throws in, well, what about taping?
Okay.
All right. Well, there are a lot of tapes out there. There are a wide variety of brands, a wide variety of capabilities. They all work pretty good, but a lot depends on the condition of the wall you're playing with. Because at some point, you're going to take this tape down.
Well,
and a lot of times, it has a tendency to snatch holes in your paint.
Yeah, especially on the top of baseboards. That's the most notorious.
Oh.
If somebody back in the day didn't dust off the baseboard and they just painted over it, it'll look normal until you peel the paint off, and it's going to take the paint with it.
Just rips it right off of there.
But I don't cheap out on masking tape either. You know how there's like the dollar store brand?
No.
Get the medium grade.
You need a good grade.
Yeah.
That's a good brand. That's recognizable. You've seen a TV ad for it or something.
Yeah.
Some of them have amphibians. Others have other spokespeople. But get to the better tapes.
Right.
It'll save you a lot of pain.
Yeah. Don't cheap out on the tape. Yep.
All right. Another one is let's talk about sanding.
What are we painting here, Allan?
This was a hallway. This was a long
So you were painting?
hallway.
Were you painting the trim and the walls?
Oh, it's going to be the whole thing.
What
Ceiling,
are we sanding here, though? Are we sanding
Well,
this?
it's a hallway. It's been nicked and bumped and scratched over the years as people have hauled stuff up and down it.
So you're patching it. So you're sanding sheetrock and trim.
Yeah, we got to do a little sheetrock patching. All right. Well, think of your mud. Think of your joint compound as liquid wall.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Start there. So apply it like it's liquid wall. It's not a wad of Play-Doh to shove in a hole.
And you can't have a hole that's 1 inch deep and 5 inches across and put one big fat coat of spackle in because it's never going to dry. It'll be wet on the inside for the next 10 months. It'll never.
Yes, and it's going to crack.
And it'll split like the desert.
And it's going to crack.
Yeah.
And then everybody goes, well, what about spackling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about it?
Yeah.
It's a lovely product that'll fill a pinhole. Well, that's really what it's designed
Well, it's
to
not
do.
meant to skim.
It's
You got to put
designed-
several coats.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really designed to fill those little minor imperfections caused by somebody sticking stuff in the wall.
Alan, you sound oddly triggered. So you said I would have been horrified by that. So everybody
Well,
did everything wrong on this job.
I
it sounds
walk
like.
in, and of course, there are gigantic, huge fat brushes. There's somebody's air sprayer sitting there. And I'm
Wait,
like,
they were getting ready to spray.
oh my gosh. And there was a pile of steel wool.
Okay, for what?
They were using the steel wool to sand down the spots that they had mudded. And whoever had done the mud, let's just say, has a bad nervous tick.
Can I just say, gosh, you triggered me, Alan. A steel wool. Now, somebody may be going, what's the big deal? It's like sandpaper. Well, it leaves little steel particulates in there. You're going to paint it with a water-based paint. You're going to have rust spots
Yes.
all over there, and it's not what it's designed for. So.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Alan is triggering. He's really getting things fired up here. We're going to continue the drama when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Do you know what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement?
I guess I hadn't.
Well, I have a feeling what you are about to go through is punishment enough.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
That's what they need to equip the robots with, is just force feed the criminals.
Yeah, there you go. They never really said what she went through, but I'm sure it wasn't something we want.
Punishment enough.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I could just see a robot going all Monty Python, rolling up to somebody going, cake or death. You know,
Exactly. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, with cake and robots and everything like that, well, earlier in the show, we were talking about the fact that home security robots are no longer science fiction. They are here. They're here. It's time to make your choice. Which one do you want? What special features are you going to put on there? What are the legal ramifications if you make this thing too lethal and too effective to protect your home? But that's on the table. So if you want to weigh in on that, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And also, we invite you to celebrate and talk about Happy Moon Day. We got a nice text from Angel. She's got a pretty nice picture of the moon, right, Max?
She's got great pictures of the moon.
She's got a pretty killer camera. I know she's a photographer. She's a great loyal listener. Angel, we're gonna see if we can try to post that. You caught us at the break, so we'll try to get this up there maybe at the next break. But hey, Alan, in the before speaking of combat and triggering and everything, before the break, we were talking. You were talking about a job. Well, you're responsible for commercial properties, usually in the healthcare system, and you're the guy that has to come in there and when the state inspectors show up, you're the person that has to walk them around, and it's more or less your neck on the line. So the people that work for you, they better know what they're doing. And it's funny, even down to sometimes people, you don't get a college degree for painting. So anybody can really tell you, yeah, I know how to paint. I'm a really good painter. Well, until you actually prove it.
Yeah.
And you were on a job, and they basically did everything you could do wrong. They did wrong, right? I mean,
yeah, this wasn't actually a paid job. This was just a friendly visit for a friend. And it was one of those, you get the phone call and you're like, you're gonna die when you see what these people are doing. You're like, can you come by? Yeah, I can drop by.
Oh, you had to be. You were a hired mercenary. You had to be the bad cop.
Man, okay. I was the bad cop is a good phrase because I'm sure I was called something worse than that as soon as I left. So let's just start with the right brush. The right brush for the right job. And Joe, I cannot agree with you more. It's got to be a good brush.
Yeah.
It's
not that much more.
Go to the dollar bin.
And this is controversial. I don't know if it's controversial, but I am partial. I've always been partial to nylon brushes, even for oil-based paint, Alan. And I don't care. I've done it for years, and I like the 2-inch or 2.5-inch tapered brush, depending on what the application is, and the thinner brush. So, less is more. I put on about half the. I never put it on both sides. You were talking about you don't dip it in and
Right. You don't
start slinging it on. So, yeah.
you're not slinging Cool Whip at the Sunday social.
Right. Yeah.
All right. 2, you put wall compound. You put joint compound, better affectionately known as mud. If you have the pre-mixed stuff, it has to dry. And if you put it on too thick,
or no, you like to mix it yourself.
I greatly prefer to mix it myself. However, for the average person, that little tub of joint compound, and it's not horribly expensive, is pre-mixed, is good stuff. You know, I don't mind using it. I like it. It sands good. It gets smooth, but it does have to dry.
Right.
So there's a 24-hour lag between the time you mud something up and you get it sanded down and you can paint it.
Right.
You really need 24 hours. And you can't put the pre-mixed mud on very thick.
You can't really put any filler on thick. It doesn't. Well, it's better to put layers on and just.
It is much better. Now, there are also the bags of mud sitting there, the joint compound bags, and they'll say things like easy sand 10, easy sand 20, 30, 45. All right, this is how long you have from the time you mix it till it's rock hard.
And they're not kidding.
And
either.
they
usually
are
they
not playing.
overestimate. When they say 10 minutes, really, it gets
It's
almost
about
unworkable
5.
in 5 minutes
It's
because it
about
starts
5,
to gum
yeah.
up and get. Yeah.
And why would you buy something like that? Well, when you're 15 feet up on a scaffolding and you hit a hole that you didn't know was there, this is a quick, easy way of being able to take all the stuff up with you, mix up a little tiny batch, patch that hole, and in 10, 15 minutes, you can move on.
Okay, you triggered me again, Alan, because just so we know, I know we've talked about this in the past, but it's important because just about every homeowner is going to do their own painting at some point, and they're going to use this stuff. And so why not, if we have new listeners, let's just reiterate this stuff. One thing you said, though, and I'm going to pull your words on you. There's a difference between drying and curing.
Yes.
So if you do your you do your quick 10-minute patch and you patch it and it's hardened and it looks dry, well, there's still moisture in there that is not gone. You might even notice it looks a little gray in the center and white on the edges or something. It's not ready to paint yet. Just because it feels hard and you gotta really just let all the moisture go away. Or it's
not gonna take 24 hours.
Right. But I'm just saying, so you don't, well, I mean, you've seen these guys. I've literally been on job sites where a guy
I've seen them paint mud.
They have the caulk, even if it's the quick dry caulk, they caulk it. There's a guy behind them, and 5 minutes later, they're painting over it. It'll dry and everything. Well, it's not drying the way it's supposed to.
It doesn't.
And don't, and if you hire a paint crew, boy, you're really triggering me, Alan. And you're marveling at how fast they're working and how quick they're getting the job done. Don't thank them for that. They're skipping all the important steps. They're skipping the prep work. They're not, painting is a bit tedious. And most of it looks like you're not doing anything. You're cleaning, you're sanding, you're prepping, you're waiting. That's just the way it is to do it.
The actual painting doesn't take that long.
That's the easiest part of the whole job.
It's all of the other work. And the other thing I want to point out is, for heaven's sake, buy a proper sanding pad.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, because I know everybody's got sandpaper, and I know you're a grandpappy. Use sandpaper. And you know what, guys?
I like sandpaper, Alan.
Sandpaper's fine, but for the average person, a sanding pad, and there again, variety of brands, there's plenty of there for you to grip with your hand so you're not busting your knuckles on the wall. You're not leaving steel wool in the wall fragments. It sands nice and neat.
Like
you can wash them. You know what, guys? And they're cheap.
Yeah.
And they're easy. And they don't require a lot of skill, and you don't have to have some kind of power sander.
Right.
So I'm just pointing out little things that'll make that smaller job so much easier to do.
And the other thing is, you know what it is about painting? You can't hide your work. Everybody sees it, and everybody's going to know you did it, and you're, so you don't want your name attached to something that's not
now, when you get it done right, you show it to everybody.
Sure.
You're like, whoa, look what I did. So,
but anybody walking by, if they see a bunch of grit in the trim work, and they see all these wavy lines, and they see
or the lumps of extra mud you didn't bother to sand off before you painted over it.
Right.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
Yeah, that stuff kills me.
Yeah.
So that was my big thing. And my last word is, unless you are trained at or very good at a paint sprayer, use a roller.
I don't like paint sprayers for very much. I know they have their place. I've never felt like the paint gets worked into the surface as well as
doesn't.
it does. I like to work it in and make sure it's getting in there in the pores. And I've seen paint where they spray it on and it's basically landing on the surface, but it doesn't bond to the surface.
We have a question from one of our texters that we're going to have to answer once we get back from the break because we're coming up. But
Okay.
Michael Boomerang asked us, what do you think about sponge paint brushes and other tools that are supposed to help clean paint lines and edges?
Oh, okay. I already know what I think of those.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, boy, everybody's triggering me. It's easy to trigger me here when you're talking about
We need
painting.
like a shotgun sound.
Well, Boomerang Mike, stay put because you're going to get an earful when I come back. So, enough Tool Talk radios in the can. But stay tuned for hour number 2.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, which we've got somebody on the line we've got a text we'll address momentarily. There's a lot on the table, a lot of varying topics, and from varying degrees of, futuristic technology that's with us today, and later, shortly in our Great Moments in Building History, sort of an ancient, I guess you can call this a construction. It's mostly noted for its landscape. In our Great Moments in Building History today, we're going to discuss the St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland, which goes back to the late 1400s, and it is widely regarded as the birthplace of golf. And, I don't know that we've ever really talked about golf on the show, so I think it'll be interesting. It hits all the marks with Allan. It's his people, the Scottish. It talks about landscaping, and and even Max is going to appreciate this conversation.
I mean, to an extent, it's still my personal opinion that I think golf is kind of boring.
It might be boring to watch for some people, but it's very addictive to play. I can tell you that, Max. When I was your age, I used to play all the time, and
I prefer martial arts and everything than hitting a ball around.
Okay. Anyway, hey, before the break, though, Allan was triggering me all over the place with his week in review because he was talking about incompetent painting, and I'm sort of a stickler for that. I like painting to be done correctly. But Max, you said we have somebody that sent us a text about that.
Unintentionally triggered you again.
Well, not necessarily, actually. I calmed down during the break, but tell us what they
Fire him back up. Read it again.
All right, Michael Boomerang said, what do you think about sponge paint brushes and other tools that are supposed to help clean paint lines and edges?
Okay, for one thing, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that question. I will say this. Usually those things, we're talking about those little foam brushes. They come to a tip. They come in varying widths, Okay, Allan, basically for painting, I think they're absolutely useless and terrible. I would never use one. I wouldn't even give my 4-year-old
They are good at separating you from your money.
However, Michael, they do serve one purpose that I can think of. And have you ever, Allan, you know this. You might be working with something like a clear coat or a stain, something that's just really watery. And, you can, now, like they do make a stain that's a little bit thicker, like a semi-transparent stain that you use for, outside applications. You can usually use a paintbrush for that, but they have some that it's like water.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to using a foam brush on a situation like that but because you've seen that where you dip a paintbrush in and it just runs everywhere and it makes a mess and it's like
it just dries out, right?
But you're gonna those things are not strong as you brush them. You better buy about 8 of them because you're gonna destroy them. So for limited specialized applications, I would use that. That's about it though. I'm not a fan.
Again,
what do you think, Allan?
I'm going to say the proper tool for the proper job of when you are working on furniture.
Right.
And you got lots of little curly cues and little things that you need to get into. Some of those foam brushes or art brushes will do a really good job of doing that.
Yeah.
Would I use any of that nonsense that you see in the ads where, oh, look, it cuts a perfect edge?
Right.
No, it doesn't. It never has. It never will. Oh my gosh. I fight against those things constantly.
Yeah.
I have a friend that is a gizmo head, and the amount of that junk that has gone in the trash.
Yeah. So that's our feeling about that. And thanks for chiming in, Michael. And if you've got any comments or questions, like we said, get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. And remember, you can send pictures like our buddy Angel did. Sent a beautiful picture of the moon because today is Moon Day.
Pictures.
Okay, so as soon as we get the chance, we're going to post those. But all right, it's time to shift gears. I have a Ask Allan question. So, Allan, this sounds like this is one of these home projects I'm going to have to navigate carefully, or I'm going to be doing a lot of miserable, tedious work, and I don't want to do that. So, if you've been following Tool Talk recently, you should know my wife. I don't know. She went for 20 years, more or less, indifferent to lawn work, indifferent to a lot of the work that goes on to maintain the outside of your home. And now she's like, that's all she does. She goes out in the afternoon. She works. I bought her a really awesome Sawzall. She's out there trimming up bushes. She's not as susceptible to poison ivy as I am, because I get it. I can look at poison ivy.
The wind blows good, and you got poison ivy.
But she's out there, and now her new thing. So she's really got the yard looking good. She's doing all this landscaping and everything. But now, Allan, she wants, for lack of a better term, I think you call this like a composite sidewalk.
Right.
If you can imagine, folks, you might have been seeing these. I mean, they've been around for centuries, but I feel like there's a little trend where they're coming back, where if you look, you might, instead of just paver stones,
right,
you might take some slate rocks over here, and then you've got some pebbles that you form in the shape of a spiral or something. We have a really good example of it that I posted on our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. But basically, you're making it more decorative. Now, this is a whole different application because there's, some of them there's sand in between the rocks. Some of them there's dirt. Some of them there's concrete. It looks like a lot of work to me, man. You called it rock Tetris and everything.
It is. You're going to play rock Tetris.
But I said, hey, if you want to do the art part of it, I'm happy to do the grunt labor. But so if somebody wants to put something like this down, I suppose, what is the process? And so you can make it user-friendly so that you're not fixing this thing or having weeds growing between it.
The most important tool that you're going to need for this is a can of spray paint.
Okay. Oh, you map out where...
Map this baby out. And I mean go walk it. I don't mean get an idea and draw it in the backyard and go get a shovel. I mean, honest to goodness, go get you a can of spray paint and map this thing out. Where do you want it to go? How do you want it to get there? And trick number 2, tree roots.
Think about where you're...
This is why you need to map this baby out and walk it. Seriously, are you going to walk on this path? I cannot count the number of fabulous looking landscapes, especially around businesses, that are utterly useless.
Yeah, because they put the sidewalks where you're not going to use them.
Right, and you see where the people walk through the yard.
Right.
Because you see the trample. And that should have been where the wandering path went.
Now, that's a good point. That's easy to overlook, that basic step.
Man, are you going to walk on this before you put in this amount of work? And this is not like, I'm going to paint the bedroom. This is work.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be.
And
we have a big backyard. I don't know where she wants to run this thing.
And number 2, you're probably going to buy a new shovel.
Well, I wanted to ask you about it because obviously the idea is to dig down enough where you have a solid foundation. I don't know what the foundation is, though, Allan, because I guess that's what I'm wondering. We don't want weeds growing through it. That's the big thing, or grass.
All right, so the biggest thing is, oh, my gosh, you're going to learn the difference between sands. There is play sand, there is aggregate sand, and then there is paver stone sand.
Okay.
And they are all different shapes. So let's go to the Tarzan movie.
What do you mean shapes?
Here we go. Let's go to the
Talking
Tarzan
about the
movie.
granules and stuff?
Right.
Okay.
So you're walking through the forest looking for Tarzan. What are you going to fall in every Tarzan movie?
yeah, the quicksand.
You're
right.
going to fall in the quicksand. All right. Quicksand is sand that has been rendered a little bit round or a little bit slippery, if you will,
Oh, I
by
didn't know
water
that.
action. And liquefaction has now made it very loose. And when you step in it, you're going to sink up to your knees or maybe your tuchus.
Like the ball pit at a
Like the ball
fast
pit at
food
any
restaurant.
of your
Okay.
restaurants, right?
All right.
And then the sand is going to lock up around you, and that's where you're going to get stuck, and you're probably going to lose your shoes. No, you do not die in quicksand like you do on a Tarzan movie, because I have fallen in quicksand about 1,000 times in my life.
They say it's not quite as, you
It's
don't want to
not.
mess with it, but there's
well,
a way
it's
out.
like I said, it's a great way to lose shoes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to come out of that hole, them shoes are staying.
Right.
You ain't getting them back. All right. So with the way that sand works like that, you get into different shapes. Now, you're paving sand. The sand that you're supposed to put down on the pavers is designed to lock in place.
Okay.
It's that shape and that size. So now it is going to depend on your backyard, your substrate, the amount of grass and stuff you got to move. You're also probably going to end up buying a trenching shovel.
Well, that's the flat.
No.
No.
A trenching shovel is the weird bent thing. It looks like a factory reject, and it's only about 3 inches wide.
Oh.
And that is what you're going to cut the edges with. And that shovel will make you believe in it cuts like butter.
Oh,
because
I've
it
used
is-
something like that. Yeah, they
It
go
is
right in.
designed to get you through.
Yeah.
Then you have root cutting shovels, which get rid of your tree roots. Mine happens to be nicknamed Dexter, the murder shovel. And then you have your round-headed spade and your flat spade that you're going to use to flatten everything out. But you're going to look like you're laying a sidewalk.
Yeah.
You're going to trench this thing in. Now, what is the material and how high is it going to stand?
Right. Okay.
And we'll get to the rest of it
Yeah.
in a minute.
All right. I knew this. You were the person to ask about this. So, okay. So we're going to continue. How do you install a composite sidewalk? You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This castle is in unacceptable condition! Unacceptable!
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
It's pretty useless critique. You could at least get specific. I mean, it's just whining at that point. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I mean, unacceptable could mean a lot of things, Alan. I don't like that. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from Dark Oak Media and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. We made about 4 posts today. They're all of varying topics, and they're all on the table, so feel free to weigh in on those. If you're just tuning in, Allan, my wife, or Allan's giving me advice about a project that my wife's interested in, and my goal in this situation is to do as little amount of work as I have to, because this is her baby,
Yeah.
and it's basically a composite sidewalk. It's artistic. It's where you buy a bunch of maybe pavers, not paver. We want the more natural stones. We're probably going to buy a variety of bags of pebbles and so maybe 3 or 4 types of rocks and arrange them in decorative shapes, and then you lay them out. Well, obviously, one of the concerns is we don't want the thing to fall apart. We also don't want to have grass and weeds growing through. And so Allan's gotten us to the point where we've dug out a trench by spending a few bucks and getting some good shovels.
Right.
And now what do we do? What do we put down next? So,
Okay. Well, in the modern world, if this was 10 years ago, I'd have told you get you some landscape fabric and line the inside of it so that you now have, a trapped trench. But that also creates microplastic pollution. So instead of that, what we've been doing lately is just taking cardboard
You know,
lining it with cardboard. I've
heard
had
stuff about cardboard. Yeah.
I've had 2 garden experiences so far in the past 2 years that have worked out really good just using cardboard. Because it's going to degrade, it's going to become part of the soil, but it kills. It's a stable surface to work from that doesn't really collapse. It's already thin.
Yeah.
So I've had good luck with cardboard.
Cardboard's a great idea.
Personally, I would use cardboard of.
So you cut it into sections and just
match
run it
the
along
bottom
there.
and just kind of lay it in there like a box.
Nothing has to be perfect. I mean, if you have it
you're covering
overlapping, who
and
cares?
then start placing your stuff. And
wait, you're saying the stones go right over the cardboard?
Well, you got some sand.
I was going to say.
You're going to put your bottom sand layer in, but that all kind of goes in together as you're Tetrising this thing together, because you want to make sure that everything is good and snug and tight and you don't have any voids.
I had a question, though, because it makes sense to me that you would put a layer of sand. Well, how thick of a layer of sand? Because I'm going to be putting, some of the rocks could weigh 15 pounds and those pebbles could weigh next to nothing.
Well, the thing is, all the airspace has to be filled.
Right.
So that's why this is going to become kind of Tetris. Personally, I would have 1 inch of sand at the bottom, about 1 inch.
Okay.
And I would do it about a bag of sand at a time. So
don't
I
just
would
throw all the sand in it.
I would just put the sand in, move it out about 1 inch, have my next bag of sand ready, and I would begin the composite Tetris, because you want all of the voids filled. You don't want any airspace for stuff to collapse later. So you're going to be putting your placement in, your different stones, your different shapes. You're going to be getting them as close together as possible. You're going to be dropping sand down in that so that it will pack together. And that's what gets this thing to hold together.
Do you walk on it and push it in?
Yeah,
or do you
kind of pack it together. The other thing you're going to wind up doing is a tamping tool. And this is where you're going to put kind of like a crash mat over the top of it, so you don't want to damage anything, but you want to tamp it down. You want to put pressure on it.
Okay, I've seen those. Yeah, we've seen it where it's like it's kind of a flat surface. It probably weighs 20 pounds. And
other people, I know a lot of companies actually have like little miniature steamrollers. Once they get everything in, they put a thick coat of sand on it. They sweep it back and forth to make sure they filled all the voids. Then they run the little steamroller over it to make sure it's good and tight and compact.
So once you've got it, because I'm thinking, I'm sure you have to have edges on this thing too, right? Like a plastic or a metal edge to keep everything from
however you want to do it
or whatever. Because I'd like to have a barrier between the grass and this thing. I don't want it to.
There's a lot of simple metal edging you can use that would work beautifully.
So you tap it down, and then you more or less, I would guess, you put in you pour sand over the top and cover everything, and then you start gently sweeping it out, and whatever stays is what's meant to stay.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems straightforward enough, but man, does it sound tedious.
It is. But the end result can last, honestly, for decades.
Well, they're cool looking. I mean,
and it's going to look amazing.
Yeah.
So, just remember, it's going to be art, and you're going to pay for your art.
You got to suffer for your art.
You're going to suffer for your art a little bit. But the end result done properly, and again, it's all about those voids. Make sure you got no voids. You got all of this packed up in there, and it'll be good and tight and last, honestly, could be decades to, way past our lifetime.
Okay. Well, we'll keep you posted on how this thing shapes up. So, all right, it's time to shift gears. I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, Allan, I just happen to be, every week we try to have a variety, and it's always a question of, what era do we want to do? What do we want to discuss? I just happened to be by the golf course over there at Overton Park, and I'm like, what is the oldest golf course in the world? It got me thinking, and in fairness, I will say, Max, I used to, when I was your age or a little young, no, actually when I was a little younger than you, I golfed 3 days a week. I was pretty addicted. I was pretty good, except I was terrible at putting. But golf is, as people know, is a very addictive game. You could love it and hate it within the same hole. I mean, but Allan, golf was older. When I did the research, I found out it goes back a lot further than than I would have thought. It goes back to your people.
Yeah, well, welcome to Scotland, and welcome to the 15th century.
And you know what's kind of cool? A little bit of a parallel between what we talked about last week. Last week we talked about a stone structure in Fife, Portugal. Well, this place is called Fife. Similar sound.
It's now I couldn't tell. So St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland is well renowned. I mean, it is everybody. They still have very important tournaments out there. It's a really landmark place. But as far as I can tell, Alan, it looks like it's surrounded by water. I'm just thinking of all the landscaping challenges and everything. But we're going to talk. I mean, building a golf course is not just a matter of okay, there's there's where we're going to lay it out. There's so much landscaping and there's so much drainage. There's a lot to consider.
All right.
Making
Well,
it challenging.
let's start with Butte Wind.
Okay.
And this is kind of why we're in St. Andrews.
Okay.
Of the Butte Wind, and it's spelled B-U-T-T.
It's pretty funny when you look at the
look at the
sign.
sign. All right.
It looks like it says something else, Alan.
Yeah,
but-
well, I understand. It says butt wind.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
But it's Butte Wind, and a butte in Scottish was your archery areas. So this was a training ground for military applications.
Because it looks like there's a castle nearby.
There's several things. There's the St. Andrew Castle. There's a cathedral. These days, they got an aquarium.
Yeah.
Am I correct in remembering my history that back in the day, England and England proper, that all men were required to train in their archery with the English longbow, and so this would have been just standard practice for every member of the whatever class?
Yes, this was a big thing, and the wind was the path that you had to go down to get to the butte.
Okay.
So this became the Butte Wind. Now, because we already had all of these lovely people, and I'm looking at Max for this one, here training, they began coming up with alternative things to do that were skill and chance. And golf became one of those type things because if you are a golfer, there is a great deal of skill in getting the ball to go where you want it to go. And there's a great deal of luck involved in the course itself, the wind, the shape, the grass, all of the variables.
Skill and chance. I hadn't thought of those two, but you're right, man. Sometimes it rolls the right way, or sometimes the wind pushes it the right way,
or the way they cut the grass has changed the break, or has, So welcome to a very finesse activity that I find very interesting, that was developed right there with all of the other training and stuff. And as a matter of fact, one of the kings got a little tiffy about it and began restricting golf because he thought it was interfering with the archery practice.
That was James II.
Right.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the next king became a golfer and went, oh, never mind, man.
No, it was
We're
another.
good.
It was another James.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got hooked on golf. He's like, okay, maybe this isn't such a bad thing.
bad. So, so kind of welcome to that weird association of different related and unrelated events that brought us to the game we call golf.
That kind of makes me think of how, completely unrelated, how fencing inspired ballet.
I see there's always connections if you really take the time to look at it. But I could see archery and golf definitely having a connection. Well, for one thing, if you're practicing archery, you have to be in a space similar to a golf course. You have to be in an open space.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of overlap. And there's a lot of really cool history that we're going to learn about, and landscaping techniques when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Floor feels a little gritty here.
Yeah, we ran out of floorboards there, so we painted the dirt. Pretty clever.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I wonder if they did that on the job Allan was on this week. Sounds like they did everything else wrong. Wouldn't be a far stretch. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. It's a good day to do it. We're not going to recap all of the topics we've discussed today, other than to say robot home security robots are here. It's we want to wish everybody a happy Moon Day. And, if you're interested in golf, this is a great time to chime in, because we're in the middle of our Great Moments in Building History discussion, talking about the St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland. In a minute, we're going to jump back into that. But we also want to salute a roofing expert, a good friend of ours, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Well, actually, it's not fair to say he's just a roofing expert. He's an expert at the exterior protection of your home. Big M Roofing and Remodeling, well, they do roofing, gutters, siding, and windows, and they also do interior remodeling as well. But we really like to showcase their exterior expertise, because all of these are systems. Even your windows are a system, and siding and gutters, and especially your roof. You need a roofing system on your home to protect you from all the weather and just all the, your house is under assault 24 hours a day from the elements, and there's nobody better than Big M Roofing and Remodeling. For one thing, they are always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau. Jay is a GAF Master Elite Installer, and he is one of the premier roofers in terms of ratings and reviews. He's really about at the top of Mid-South roofers. He's very well respected, and that's because everything he does is quality, and these roofing systems are so well made that they actually come with a lifetime transferable warranty. One thing that sets Jay apart from the competition, however, is, for one thing, his dynamic personality. He always brings a lot of energy and optimism to a job. However, what really sets him apart is Jay is a former insurance agent. When it comes to your roof or the outside of your home, if you've had any damage to your roof or the exterior of your home, and you need to make a claim, boy, that is a tricky process to navigate, and you really need an advocate for that. And if you do have a path forward with your homeowner's insurance, man, does that save you a lot of money. Allan and I both had our roofs replaced through a claim for our homeowner's insurance, and it saved us. It saved me over $10,000. I can tell you that. More probably, Allan, but it's not an easy process to navigate, and like we said, you need an advocate. So Jay Hill should be the first person you call if you suspect you have any damage to the outside of your home. It's a free consultation, and he will let you know if there's a path forward, and if so, it really brings a lot of peace of mind, and it's going to save you a lot of money. And like we said, Jay just brings a natural energy and optimism to every project he does, and he's all about craftsmanship and making sure it's done correctly. So Jay always also encourages you to call him directly. You can reach Jay at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. Well, we're having a really fun conversation about the St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland and our great moments in building history. Somebody might say, well, what sort of construction is this? This is a bunch of grass and everything. One thing that struck me, though, Allan, one of the best compliments you can pay a homeowner is if they have a really nice looking yard. You might say, oh my gosh, this grass is like a golf course. I mean, that is the ultimate in landscaping perfection, right? I mean, that's the standard, the gold standard.
It really has. It's kind of become that. So let's go to the coast of Scotland. So you got sand dunes, you got grass, you got winter, you got weather, you got all this kind of stuff going on. You got a bunch of bored archers sitting around whacking pebbles off into the ocean from the sand dunes.
Well, we're talking about the late 1400s and the early 1500s.
So,
right?
The earliest known kind of, quote, game of golf was basically take your walking stick and turn it over, and they would kind of knock pebbles around a little track. It was just a diversion,
right?
A side game. And like I said, knowing my relatives in Scotland,
oh, yeah,
this would have become a drinking game and a gambling event in about 15 minutes. I'm just talking talking about my family, not anybody else's. So don't send me hate mail.
Well,
Knowing my family, this would have been an event in like 30 minutes.
One of the great things about the Scots is they're a people of sudden enthusiasms, you could say.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just they get passionate about things. So.
Well, and Aaron, you've now said the perfect word, because now that we've got the idea that we're going to like whack a ball with a stick, and we've been at the archery ranges.
Because this was built on the site of an archery
Well, yeah, I mean,
range.
we're right here. So, I mean, so suddenly, you know, everybody's kind of like, what does bow and arrows got to do with golf? But when you look at an archery range, it's a big, open, flat field where you can see the targets way down at the far end.
Right.
And, you know, there's going to be natural obstacles. There's going to be the wind. There's going to be the territory. That all plays into a golf course.
Yeah, you don't just
because
bulldoze
now
a flat surface. It's got to have banks and it's got to have sand traps.
It's got to have
a long
obstacles
fairway.
and
Right.
things to challenge you. So, what is the takeaway to the average homeowner? Well, if you think of your backyard as a containment system for your children and pets,
You can tell Allan doesn't have kids.
you can tell
Although
I've
you're
been
not
around
wrong.
them and I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know, right, let's just start with it is a containment unit.
Right.
You were designed to separate yourself from your neighbors. It has been said more than once that good fences make great neighbors. So you are designed to keep your stuff where your stuff is supposed to be. But then, like we're talking about with that winding path you want to go make, now what do we do with it?
Yeah.
And a golf course is probably one of the best places to steal the best ideas. Because they really, when you put a feature into a golf course, it has to be maintainable, it has to be serviceable, and it has to be functional for what you built it for.
Right. Yeah.
Because let's face it, a sand pit is not a natural environment of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
But we have sand pits, we have sand traps all over golf courses.
Well, I had a very fundamental question because, you know, as anybody knows, when you golf, especially if you're on the fairway and, okay, well, you got to pull out your 2-iron or something.
Right.
Well, when you hit the ball, you're probably going to take a divot out of that grass.
Yes, you are.
Okay, well, you've got to have the right kind of grass. And it's all right. It's good form. You put the divot back, obviously. But,
Right.
well, you know, you just whacked a chunk of grass out of there. How do you maintain a space where that's going to grow back and you're not going to just have a bunch of holes in there? So you got to
Exactly.
understand the right type of grass for the different.
It's not only the right type of grass, it's the right kind of soil.
Talk to me.
And the care of that soil.
Right.
So you'll hear if you watch golf, if you watch any golf, they cannot wait to tell you that, that's right, we're in Florida and we'll be playing on St. Augustine grass. Because of that, because of the way the grass grows and lies, is how the course is going to look, play, and break. In Memphis, you could have a fescue lawn, you could have a Bermuda lawn, you could have St. Augustine, you could have Kentucky bluegrass, or you could have all of the above, and Lord only knows what else growing in it.
Right.
So how your lawn is maintained, and these days we're getting away from having the big grass farm.
Yeah.
You know, just having lawn.
Yeah.
And now we want features.
Right.
And this is where I really get on my high horse about confess your lifestyle. What do you want, and how do you want to take care of it?
Yeah,
because your deck is going to be a part of this. Your fire pit, your barbecue grill, where the dog needs to run, where the kids are going to play. How are you going to contain it? What kind of fencing do you have? How old is it? What kind of condition is it? What do you got growing on it? And for heaven's sake, what did you plant where? How big does it get? And is it near power lines or your foundation?
Yeah. I do want to say something though about golf. And I mean, you know how my feelings are about baseball and everything. There's there's so many subtleties that if you're just watching golf on TV or if you're watching a baseball game or something, there's so many things that these athletes are aware of that we're not. You were talking about, I'm just picturing, okay, in their mind, they're thinking this is a certain type of grass. The wind is breaking from the northeast.
Yes.
I've got to get 100 yards this way. There's so many geometric and mathematical and almost chemical computations going on in their mind. And if you're a really high-level player or something, there's a kind of genius, I think, happening here that I just, I have a lot of respect for. I do want to say one funny thing, though, because in the early days of the St. Andrews Golf Course, basically, if I read correctly, they had 11 holes, but they wanted to make it a 22-hole course. So what they do is you shoot 11 holes one way, you walk down the course, then you come back and shoot 11. Right. So you had people coming and going.
And if that wasn't enough with regard to the history of golf, this just shows how Scottish it was.
Yeah.
So around the 18th century, the merchants actually end up buying some of the land, and they were rabbit farmers, and so they were ensued over the past 20 years the rabbit wars.
Yes.
Oh, it was like, does it make more sense to have rabbits here or a golf course? And eventually the golf course won out. Yeah.
It was a man by the name of James Cheap. That kind of helped with that. The golf course has been heavily influenced by people by the name of James.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also this one guy named Hugh Lyon Playfair.
That guy rocks. Hugh Lyon Playfair. That's good.
There's your name.
We got a couple parting thoughts, and then we're going to get to our must-have item of the week. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I'm in danger.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Your attitude is everything. At least Ralph Wiggum always thinks, he's always optimistic. I'll give him that. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. There's just enough time for a quick phone call or text at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And if you're just tuning in, we're having kind of a fun discussion in our Great Moments in Building History about the birthplace of golf, the St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland. Allan, the problem, not the problem, but just one of the things, and maybe there's a historian listening that can clear this up for us. I don't know that you can attribute the creation of golf to one person or one group or anything. I know that, like, you can trace the history of basketball. Like, there's a gym teacher, I believe, that created it. Well, I know it was from Scotland, and I know your people more or less started, but who knows? I mean, it sounds like it was a group of them. They were waiting in line to practice their archery, and they needed something to do. And they're on this big open, plain, and they started hitting rocks or something with their shillelaghs, and suddenly the game of golf was born. But,
it's an organic process. It wasn't any one person. It just evolved.
Right.
And as it grew, as with anything, it grew, it changed. Different people came along and left their stamp on it. But the game of golf has, it's literally grown around the world.
Oh, yeah.
It is, for the person that participates in golf, it is the most frustrating, peaceful thing they can do in their lives, because the real challenge is always you versus the course.
Yeah, well, and your friends egging you on and everything. But there's
the
peer
camaraderie.
Pressure. If you have a horrible shot in front of your friends, it's embarrassing.
Well, it doesn't matter that your friends are for.
What was that Winston Churchill quote about golf? It was something about
Winston Churchill said it was an unpleasant. It was a
pleasant
walk in a park, unpleasantly disturbed by.
Yeah.
An ill-suited activity done with tools ill-prepared for the job.
Something like that, yeah.
I'm totally massacring that, but...
It was basically, you're out in nature, but then you're being frustrated every
just go for a walk in the park. Put the ball down, But for golfers, it's the challenge.
But I did want to say one thing, because I was interested in I'm assuming the first golf clubs were made of wood. I would have to assume that. But the first golf balls, what do you make of golf? You're not hitting rocks. That wouldn't go very far. But what you told me, there's something.
That is pine resin, tree resin.
Okay.
Which was basically, if you've ever played with not the sticky sap, but an actual hardened resin, it's a pretty decent ball. Doink, doink. You can make a ball out of that. You wrap that in leather, and congratulations, you've now got a pretty durable ball you can whack the stew out of.
So you roll up some leather into a ball shape, and it seems like it would be oblong and it wouldn't fly very straight out.
No, you look at a modern baseball or anything like that, they're clad in leather. These people were very good at what they did.
Yeah. Well,
you ever want to see, all right, Joe, it's kind of like, have you ever seen somebody that likes to go trout fishing?
I can't say that I have.
Okay, well, if you ever do, they get into tying flies.
I've
and
heard
that
of
is
that,
where
yeah.
it's
That's
a
an art.
hook and feathers. And this has got to be one of the craziest activities I've ever watched. But a trout fisherman will spend hours making the perfect fly. An avid golfer in 1508 would have spent hours and hours and hours polishing down and creating the perfect golf ball to give them an advantage.
Yeah. I don't doubt it.
I mean, trust me, there is millions of man hours spent in perfecting this game.
I have one last salute to the Scots there, because one thing, hey, they wanted a challenge. They said the first course, as we mentioned earlier, was basically 11 holes going one way, and then you came back and played the
you played both directions.
I don't get how that even works. I mean, when you say 4 and all that,
that's when you yelled to warn people you were firing a golf ball at them.
Right. I mean, really, that just seems like, and plus it would be confusing whose ball is which. They probably marked them, I'm thinking, so you knew whose was what. But they thought the holes were too close together, and so they removed some of them, and they made them 18 holes. And suddenly that's where the 18-hole golf course came from. That sort of became the standard. So really interesting stuff. One last thing. There's a famous little bridge there that all the golfers walk across. It goes across this little creek. Well, this if I'm correct, I thought that bridge is like 800 years old. It was there way before even the archery set up.
The Swilcan Bridge.
What is it?
Swilcan.
Well, hey, whoever built that little humble bridge, it's well made.
It is a simple stone arch bridge.
It doesn't look like it should even stand, and yet it's made it for hundreds and hundreds of years. But if you want to go down the rabbit hole, literally, because they had rabbits there at one point, it's a pretty interesting study. The St. Andrews Golf Course in Scotland, a pretty cool topic for our great moments in building history. So, all right, well, Allan, it's time to move along. Let's get to our must-have item of the week, which we don't have the benefit of the camera, but we do. I did post a picture on our Facebook page. Boy, it's Max late with the music cue, but I guess you can tell people what I've got here.
You have a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. Well, this isn't just any Swiss. Well, somebody's going, what the heck? Okay, well, for one thing, the Swiss, man, boy, they know how to make army knives. Did the Swiss Army actually use these knives?
Yes.
And they know how to make shoes. I really like this isn't a paid sponsorship, but I really like my On Cloud shoes.
Oh, they're good. Yeah, I mean, they're craftsmen. They're clock makers. They're fine craftsmanship.
They know how to protect the Pope.
Swiss Guard, everything. But the reason I brought this one in, Allan, it occurred to me, I literally use this Swiss Army knife. Right now, I've got the scissor feature open. I use this at least twice a week. Well, trim my nails and stuff. But it's got a saw. It's got several blades. It's got a corkscrew. It's got a router. It's like got a little edge you can use to router things. And how many things in our life do we still use years and years? I mean, I said, I got this in Cub Scouts, and I still use it.
Yes.
There's something, too, about the sentimental attachment you get to something. But, hey, sentimentality's all well and good, but if it doesn't work, it's going to wind up in a drawer somewhere. But this thing is in use, and I don't know.
I've got a couple of tools I've had since probably 1980.
Yeah.
So, I like I have the great-grandchild of that. Of course, I have a Leatherman tool.
What's that? A Leatherman
Which is,
tool.
It's got the pair of pliers, it's got the knife, it's got the this, it's got the that. And that's, basically the great-grandchild of the Swiss Army knife.
Sounded for a second like you said the Letterman tool.
Leatherman. Leather, yes. So, welcome to the multi-purpose tool and the fact that the Swiss Army knife has been around well over a century and shows no signs of going away.
No, and I would say, too, you can get a Swiss Army knife suited to whatever taste you have. I think, Max, you have a thinner one, don't you? You have one with just a couple of three or four features.
Yeah, it's just a tiny one, but what I like about it is that the pair of tweezers are better than the bigger tweezers because they have that right level of grip to where if you have like the really pesky splinter, or for like if I'm shaving and everything and I need to pluck some hairs.
Yeah. No, they're great. And so everybody should have one. And it's not a bad thing to have in your, it's easy to overlook just a simple pocket knife in your toolbox, but I think it's an important thing to have. So, but okay, so that's our must-have item of the week. I wanted to just mention something, Allan, because this is something we sort of left hanging. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about modern air conditioning units. Because some people, they're in a situation, I know this happens a lot in Chicago or something, where you might, in addition to your central heat and air, maybe you're in a garage, or maybe you have a sunroom or something, and you need a portable AC unit. We talked about the well, it's, for lack of a better term, it's like a mini split. It's sort of a newer one where it's got a U-shaped cutout. But then there's also the Penguin.
Yes.
And we've had pretty good results with that in our, like I said, we have a workout room, we have a sunroom that we need stuff like that. But talk about the Penguin, Allan, because...
Well, I've got one on a job site right now. We haven't installed the appliances yet, so we have it vented out the dryer vent.
Right.
And so whatever area of the building we happen to be doing the most work in, man, he just set him up right there and let him blow cold air in.
It's on rollers. It stands about 3 feet tall. It's about 12 inches in diameter. But the thing I like about the Penguin, so it has a big vent that comes out the back. It
does.
Make sure you don't kink that up and everything. But Allan, what I like about the Penguin is you don't wind up with that puddle of water underneath.
No.
It just kicks out hot air, more or less, right?
Well,
Where's that moisture going?
Well, it has a sling ring. That moisture is in the air you're breathing.
Okay.
Because what it's doing is it's condensating just like it, does before. And most of the size of a Penguin is actually the reservoir that water goes into. But as it runs, a sling ring throws that water up onto the warmer side of it, so it is vaporized and put back out into the air.
Yeah, so not a bad investment.
Now,
if you have a weird space like a garage or something, and you gotta.
Some of them do have drain plugs, so
all right,
there you go.
Wow. I don't know where the show went, Allan. We're out of time. So we got to get out of here, you guys. You've been listening to another interesting episode of Tool Talk Radio. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.